Well, we're actually on the ferry, and we've had a bit of seasickness last night from some of the kids, but yeah, we're actually on our way. I'm an early riser. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody else is asleep, and the boat is relatively empty. I mean, it's like a ghost ship in here. I suppose people are on holiday, so they don't need to get up. But it's just a habit of mine I can't shake off. But yeah, the crew are cleaning the boat on the outside, so you can't really go outside because they're hosing all the decks. But yeah, I'm just chilling out before it gets absolutely manic. Last night it was absolutely heaving in here, but yeah, it's just nice to sit by yourself for a moment before the madness starts again. We're in central Portugal, and like I said, we're staying with a relative, and we've just come down to one of the river lakes which has had beach to cool off. Seems like a load of people have been here but they've left, but this place is absolutely scorching, and on top of that we're really suffering with the heat. We're not really acclimatised, so we're just having a couple chill days to get used to it before we start fully exploring in that. Although I've identified a few walking trails for myself. We've made it to central Portugal, and we're just at the lakes, and we've got the mountains behind us. We've still trying to acclimatise to the heat. It's pretty brutal, so we're pretty much in the pool, and our kids and ourselves are going to be going in the lake for a swim. I've identified some walking trails for myself, and I'm going to have my first hike tomorrow morning, so we'll see how that all pans out. Right, it's reasonably early in the morning, and I'm out for my first little taste of a walk in central Portugal. I'm up early because the one thing I've learned in the 40 odd hours I've been here is the heat. It's merciless, and with the young kids, they've kind of struggled a little bit. But yeah, I'm walking along a little village road, and it's going to take me to a track, and I'm going to take that track into the countryside, and then I'll pick up with you guys, and we'll have a little talk again there. And this looks fairly typical Portuguese countryside. A lot of the countryside is absolutely bone crisp dry, and I'll just bring you around, and you can just see in the distance the Serra da Estrela mountains, and I should be going up there shortly, or in due course. I'm not quite sure what day we're going to go up there, but we've been looking at a lot of the properties around here, and it is actually quite hard to actually get your head around who, how, what and when, and indeed what relevant information is required for you to make judgments. It's not quite so straightforward as back in the UK. That being said, we're just trying to get our feel and get a grounding to what it's actually like here. Yeah, I would strongly suggest if you're coming here, you need to come here and spend time, not just a few days or a week. Like I said, we're here for a month, so we should have a good grounding on basically what it's like to be here. The sun is quite strong when it's just peeking over the horizon, but it's casting shadows. But this place here is actually for sale. Now it's a small plot of land and it has a building which, from what we can understand, doesn't have habitation, even though it looks like it is designed for habitation. But it has a piece of land which runs all the way along the bank. Yeah, so, you know, the mornings are probably the most productive time you're going to have here. I can already state that, because the evenings still retain a lot of the heat. And, yeah, we've already had a few incidents with tired and teasy children. And, you know, I may be... I'll let the van go past. Well, like you say, we're actually currently situated between two small villages. Yeah, like I said, we've had our brushes with wildlife so far, and that is the plant life. Now, one of our eldest child had a few little prickly, very fine cactus hairs in his toe, which caused him a bit of an irritation, and we spent possibly half an hour picking them out with a pair of magnifying glass and the tweezers. So yeah, you have to be aware that as lovely as it is here, you cannot just be walking around barefoot. That obviously sounds you know, Billy Basics, but when you've got kids like myself, that's another little factor that you might want to just throw into the mix, and we've discovered that pretty early on. But I'm currently standing on a track you can see behind me, and apparently, according to my family members, this I can walk, which will take me through the countryside and into the village at the very top near, well, where my family member lives. Yeah, so this wall actually belongs to that property. I just tried to show you, but obviously I'm walking into the sun, so you've got the shadows. There's an olive grove over here, bone dry grass, bit of a ruin over there as well, and you've got these typical stone granite walls. They're usually in a state of disrepair, but to be honest with you, I can imagine they've been like this for many generations, and I think they're probably, when they do fall down, they're probably just piled up and made to look similar again. But yeah, this is rural central Portugal, and yeah, I do kind of like the vibe, you know. So I'm feeling kind of a little bit at home, but I have lived in hot climates myself for quite a few years. The odd little moped, somebody going to work. You will find a lot of places gated off like this. And I'll take you just for a quick little look. And you can see this property here that's for sale. And there's the back of it. And it's in like a triangle wedge around there. And it's backing onto this land here, which has a track with a big metal gate. They are fond of big metal gates here, I have noticed that. Big metal gates seem to be the way forward. But anyway, let's walk into the sun. It's going to be a bit difficult, but I'm on a track now which is sand, gravel, rock, dried vegetation, and it is cool. There's a nice breeze. I'm dreading that sun coming up, because as soon as that comes up, because I walked into the village yesterday and there was a lot of old guys having coffee, morning coffee, nodding their head and doing their best to communicate with me. And I've already learnt one thing: if you've got living in a rural area like this, you do need some form of communication. Don't rely on the fact that in the more, shall we say, urban areas, they will possibly have people that can speak Portuguese. You do need to have some grip of the language or communication. But yeah, this is getting into the countryside now, and as you can see, that some of that looks like vines that have taken over a bit of the hedge. You can clearly see how blue that sky is up there and how hot it's going to be. This track I'm walking on obviously goes to private properties as well, and you do have to be a little bit careful you don't stray into somebody's property. That not only would that be rude, it'd be inconsiderate. And I'm obviously quite a cautious, wary kind of guy, so there's probably places I'm not going to go because I'm unsure. It's not like back home with OS maps and things. A lot of these tracks which have right of way are pretty much local knowledge. There is a ruin over there. That looks an extremely old one. And I'll bring you around here. I just love these walls. A lot of the trees have had their bark stripped, and I'll quickly show you that, and this is what they look like. Back home, I've always assumed if you take bark off a tree and wring it, that's how you kill unwanted trees. But as you can see there by that one, you can clearly see the difference between the bark that is in existence and then the dark coffee coloured bit where the bark has been stripped off. And that's the same for that one down there. And there's a load of them along the roadside as well. But apparently that's how these trees produce cork. I'm not sure of the mechanism, who, how, what and when, who extracts the cork and who gets paid and how it's all done. But yeah, I'm walking into the sun now. And when you get off the beaten track, you're presented with these huge slabs of rock here in central Portugal everywhere. And look at that stunning countryside. Now I'm starting to climb, I'm getting better views over these flat plains, and you can see the little farmsteads and little clusters of houses. And indeed the Sierra de Estrella mountains further into the distance. I've got the sun on my back and I can feel it already. I possibly should have got up. Well, I was up, but I was just drinking coffee. I possibly should have made my hike an hour earlier, really. And like I was saying, when you get off the beaten track out in the rural part of central Portugal, you can see this is pretty much a typical scenario you're greeted with. The lane or track just runs off to a metal gate, and then it would, well, gently, I suppose, meander along a track to somebody's property which is over there, and indeed their small little homestead or a bit of ground that they work. And as you can see, there's fruit trees. The grass is getting a little bit well, crisp dry, but I'll just show you this tree here, this cork oak, and that's a good example. As you can see, it's got its full natural bark at the top, but it's been totally stripped there. And it has a number 1, and I have no idea. A lot of these trees have got markings on them that have been stripped, and I don't know what that is. But I'm going to continue making my way along the track. The little piece of ground or paddock behind me, if I can use that term here, has been worked by machinery, and it looks like it's been kind of ploughed or gone over to try and get it ready for some sort of like crop. But yeah, it looks like, you know, it's hard work to gain a living agricultural wise on a big profitable scale like there is back in the UK. It just wouldn't happen here. you know, by and large it's all small time farmers from what I can see around this particular area. But yeah, it's kind of a slower pace of farming by the looks of it. Like I said, you can see it's been kind of worked, but very quick scrub tends to take hold. Yeah, it's hard work for the I would say landowners to make a living here. And as for the, you know, near drought conditions, it reminds me of when I lived in Cyprus for like 6 months. Pretty much the same heat and kind of feel to the actual landscape. Very dry. Everything's pretty raw. It looks like there's does that look like sweet corn that's trying to pop up there? The bigger, well, lusher green ones, I'm not sure. Possibly. So it could already been planted. Yes, it does look like there's small little shoots beginning to come up. And yes, it looks like sweet corn. Or I'm guessing it is. You know, compared to here, where you can actually see the scrub or broom, as they think they call it here, coming up. It looks like, I'm guessing that's sweet corn. Looks like it. But it's not very developed. Back home they would be packed to the ceiling and they would be really reaching for the skies. The UK is blessed with the perfect climate for agricultural practices, and I'm guessing that's why back in the early part of the UK's history it was able to thrive on its food production and thus, you know, shoot forward as an economic power. But yeah, we tend to forget the UK has a very productive weather and soil you know, conditions. But yeah, these here's a wall, and this looks like it's been kind of worked around the actual existing trees. I presume that some of those are cork oaks which are protected, so they couldn't sort of like chop them down to go actually and make a straight clear run for their machinery. A lot of dogs barking in the distance, and as you can hear me walking on this, it's just crunching. It's that dry. I think this track takes me to a village, and there's another cork oak. This one doesn't have any markings on it, but I'm going to continue on my way. That's an old well system there, and it looks like that would have been used, that system there, to bring up the pails of water or some kind of pump system. But as you can see, it's very lush here, and these vines have started to produce the grapes. And this looks a very well kept little vineyard. Yeah, somebody treasures this little vineyard. But I'm going to continue making my way down here. Oh, there's a rarity. A little pond. There must be a lot of water around here, as in like underground water. There's a lot of bubbles coming up from it. I don't know if that's insects or fish. I would possibly guess fish. Yeah, lots of bubbles coming up. Right. I've actually forgotten where my father-in-law actually says this actual path comes out. But that's just me, I guess. But yeah, we'll find out soon enough. And I've just got some fruit trees. I'm not quite sure what that is as a fruit, if you can see it. Not quite sure what they are, but these are overhanging, and indeed It's just looking really full of fruit all the way along here. I've even got grapes and that coming out, if you can see there, just out into the pathway. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this little walk, but like I said, I don't think I would want to do this later on. And just off this wall here, I was talking about big oak, these Cork oaks, but here's one, quite a really big tree, and this one totally demonstrates how unique this is. Anywhere else these trees would be dead, but actually they seem to thrive on it, and they are harvested periodically. It's not a one harvest, I don't think. I think they do actually do this when the bark grows back again. But yeah, look how thick that cork would have been underneath that lip of that old bark there. Absolutely, well, it's amazing to think that a tree can live after it's had bark stripped like that. You can see the trackway there, where there is an old ruin there, and I'm going to have a little look on the outside. I'm not going to go poking around in on private property, obviously, just from the trackway. But the ground here looks like it's in a very good, you know, condition, as in agricultural wise. I'd suggest somebody is actually using this as not just kind of for their own purposes, a little bit more of a commercial enterprise. And between those trees you might just see some sheep. They've got a hard life here, I would say. And over there looks like there's some new building work going on, and what looks like a little block built, is it a pump house or it looks like water pipes there, or electrical house, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, through those trees you can see the mountains, possibly not on the video because obviously I'm doing this on a very budget phone, shall I say. And interestingly, somebody's used this giant massive boulder, and I think it is actually granite, to incorporate it into the corner of a building there. That seems to be a common feature as well. There is a shotgun shell there, and I'm just going to point out there is a lot of shooting that seems to go on here that you can hear in the distance. And yeah, that's something you would have to bear in mind. A lot of like... and I take it that is actually a square boundary stone there to mark the property. But yeah, yeah, a lot of shooting does take place. I do hear shotguns going off, and dogs seem to be quite, they're not restricted as much as they are back home in the UK. And I did have an experience of walking past somebody's place yesterday, and this dog lunged at me, and if it could have got out of the metal railings or gates holding it back, I'm sure it would have done me some damage. But they do use dogs as guard dogs over here. Whether it was all noise and no teeth, as they say, I wasn't prepared, or wouldn't have wanted to be a postman to have to go in to find out. Although they do use, put all their mail on the outside of the metal gates, like I say, it seemed to anyway to me, to avoid people having to go further into their properties. Yeah, but dogs, you will hear them all over the place, early morning and last thing at night. A lot of barking, but like I said, that's central rural Portuguese life, part of it anyway. And yeah, you would adapt. There's a lot of eucalyptus leaves here, and I guess that's part of the reason there's all these fire restrictions and wildfires happening. Or part of the reason, not the main reason, but apparently eucalyptus is famed for being combustible. Here's a fork in the actual track, and I'm guessing that one goes to a property, but I'm going to be taking this one because I'm trying to get to the village. And there's one of the little guard dogs there. And obviously he's looking after this piece of land with his friend down there. But I'm actually coming into the village now. And like I said, metal gates of all kinds of construction are here. There looks to be a little ruin there, possibly being built or something done, because it looks like there's building stones there. And yeah, you can see the village in front of me. And I'm going to make my way down into it. There are a lot of bugs and insects over here. You have to get used to that. This is like an ant's nest here. And the bigger ones, you can clearly see the bigger ones. That's obviously, I think, the soldier ones. But the smaller ones, you can see them venturing out and they're bringing all sorts of stuff. There's one here trying to carry a little bit of vegetation. You know, it's massive compared to itself. But yeah, you have to get used to bugs over here. And I'm making my way further down into the village. The sky's gone blue. And there's the sun. A lot of the Portuguese villages have very narrow streets, and the buildings are extremely close together. I take it there must be a bit of an old, not ruin, but a very old property here for sale. And this is kind of typical of the thing you see in the villages, very small properties here. But it's quite hard to get information even with those signs. And like I said, a lot of the Portuguese villages are very tightly packed streets. There's a lot of colour and there's a lot of variation in the build structure or quality of the properties themselves. You can have one that's extremely well done up, and then you can be coming next to one that is in less of a state of repair. But metal doors, a theme. And I believe I've made my way down to the road which would head back to where we're staying, and yes it is. And I did notice there were another two small little properties here which side by side look like they could possibly be on the market. Well, there's a vendor's sign there. Yeah, not in a total ruined state, but they're obviously extremely small. There's another property here, but it does seem to need a lot of work. In fact, if you just look through some of those windows, you can see internally in the back end and parts of the roof have collapsed. But yeah, there's a lot of properties like this here in the village. There are some more properties, like I said, that need a lot of repair. Some of that is dilapidated, but it's a case that they'd need a lot of work, and that's well beyond anything I would even take on myself. But for somebody else, there's opportunities there, but they're obviously, I would say, pretty small, so you'd have to factor that in. But I understand from what I'm seeing, life is smaller and more easygoing in general here for the local Portuguese people. This is a local church. It's a nice church, whitewashed, and has a bell tower. And Yeah, it's kind of a focal point to the village. I hear the bells going quite regularly actually. I'm not quite sure what that signifies, whether it's time or any other thing. But yeah, nice church. Here's some more typical old Portuguese cottages. The roofs have gone in, you can see that. These aren't obviously for sale because obviously there's no selling vendor signs outside. And from what I'm led to believe, quite often these will stay in the families, you know, for generations. And, you know, even in these conditions, and nothing will happen with them. But, yeah. There's another sign for a property for sale there. In central Portugal, like, you know, wages can be 700, 800, 900 euros typically, so it's not, you know, big money. So everything here is kind of in a more rural vein. I've just come across a group of well, workmen that are repairing the cobbled streets, and these are the raw cobbles. They're repairing these bits here going down, but this is what they actually look like. It's quite a lot of work, manual work involved in that. Those guys were working really hard. That looks like extremely old rural Portuguese architecture there. It looks really nice. That looks really, you know, in keeping with what you'd expect here. And continuing up these narrow streets. Actually, it's quite nice and shaded, this street. The other ones where you get hit by the sun's already up. It's possibly 8:30 in the morning, and I've got to slog back through this heat, but it is quite welcome, the shade. And down over here, I do love these cobbles, but like I said, from what I've seen, it is really labour intensive to actually do. Back home in the UK, we have Land Rovers as our main agricultural vehicles, but these vehicles in this configuration seem to be the standard choice for all farming activity. The various different makes, but they all come with a flatbed kind of back end with like wooden slats, and yeah, most of the farmers and agricultural workers seem to have a variant of this particular vehicle. So that was my first little hike in central Portugal. I'm making my way back on this lane back home. I've got things to do with the kids after all. This isn't just about me. And yeah, we are lucky we do have family here. We're not here simply to search out what you might see on other videos or vlogs, you know, the central Portugal lifestyle. We have family here, so this is kind of seeing family and us having a little bit of a holiday as well, incorporating us looking around at possibly properties or you know, having a look, getting a feel, getting the vibe for the place. And yeah, and this is only the second day. The first day was all about acclimatization, but yeah, the sun is out, I'm being hit by it, and I'm going to plod back this lane and take in the views in reverse order, and yeah, get on with my day. And I'll catch you again. I hope you enjoyed just a little look around this small little part of central Portugal with me today.